Well, now to politics here in our own country. Let's take a look at the narrowing presidential field as we get ready to head into the month of May, which means just about 6 months left before the 2012 election. All right, so Rick Santorum is out. Newt Gingrich is scheduled to back out this week. So that just leaves two men, Mitt Romney and Ron Paul. And I think it's fair to say the Republican establishment viewpoint as of today can be summed up pretty simply. And I'll give the honors to President George H.W. Bush, or Daddy Bush.
I do think it's time for party to get behind Governor Romney. And she was reminding me, Kenny Rogers sung, it's time when to hold him, it's time when to fold him. Well, I think it's time for people to all get behind this good man.
All right, but not everyone thinks it's time to fold him. We want to show you some numbers that are emerging in terms of delegate count. And I should say these numbers are a little fluid, but here's a look. Total delegate count on that road to getting 1,144. Now, the total right now for Romney, 847. Ron Paul has 80. But now that the other guys are no longer running, we do want to compare and contrast some of what else we're seeing. In Iowa, both men have 7 delegates. In Minnesota, Mitt Romney has 2, Ron Paul has 9. In North Dakota, Mitt Romney has 7 delegates and Ron Paul has 8. And in Maine, Romney has 11 and Ron Paul has 9. So these are some different numbers than you see probably in the mainstream media. And I spoke a short while ago with Ron Paul supporter Isabel Gonzalez, president of Youth for Ron Paul, University of Texas at El Paso. And I asked her what she thought about these numbers.
Well, I believe that there is no way to actually tell how many delegates Mitt Romney has versus Ron Paul, because Santorum just got out or suspended his campaign a few weeks ago, and Gingrich has just done the same. So a lot of these delegates, depending on whether they're from bound or unbound states, they get to choose if they're from unbound states. And a lot of those, from what we can tell, have been going to Ron Paul. So it's a matter of we can't really tell, but it's definitely something that looks good for Ron Paul at this point.
So you think, despite the very large number of overall delegates received up to this point, that there still is a chance, that these numbers will tell a much different story in a couple weeks?
Well, it could very well be that. I believe the numbers that they've been showing on CNN are like 800 for Mitt Romney, but Ron Paul has a lot more than what they're showing, which is about 79 last time I checked. I just think that for instance, I'm in Texas and we haven't even had our state convention yet. I was chosen to go be a delegate in Fort Worth. So there's a lot of, I think, Ron Paul supporters out there who aren't saying they're Ron Paul supporters simply because they feel like they're not going to be chosen or something of that sort. So.
Now, I'm not sure if you know, Isabel, but we have a lot of Ron Paul supporters on this network. We interview a lot of people, kind of get their take on this race, just to show, you know, a different perspective here. And time again, they look like you. They're young, they're energetic. Ron Paul is 76 years old. He does not look like you. Why do you think it is that so many young people follow him?
Okay, well, I think from what I've seen, at least, that Ron Paul has great ideas. He's a very well-read, educated man who speaks very frankly about things, even if they're not nice to hear. And I think that we definitely, my generation or people my age, appreciate that type of honesty. So that's what initially attracts us to him. And then once we see his, I guess, the platform all around, we see how consistent he is and how fair he is to everybody, not just to favor one group over the other or to gain any sort of advantage over anybody. It's just, this is the way the Constitution was written, this is what we should follow. And I think that that is something that is rare and something we definitely are drawn to.
I want to talk about something interesting that happened recently in Alaska. The new heads of the state GOP, Russ Millett, Ron Paul supporter, as is co-chair Debbie Haaland Brown, Ron Paul supporter. This is pretty unprecedented. I haven't seen this in any other states, that the head of the state party is a Ron Paul supporter. What do you think this says in terms of a move or a shift in, what up until this point was sort of an establishment mentality for the GOP?
Well, I think that it's a trend that's going to continue because here alone in El Paso, there are a lot of, I guess what you would call the establishment GOP, and I've met with them, gotten to know them. A lot of them like Ron Paul. The only thing that's keeping them from actually supporting him outright is the fact that they believe he's unelectable. And I think that's really the thing, that's the key thing. But I went ahead and reserved some seats for some of those GOP individuals here in El Paso when Ron Paul spoke here last week, and they were clapping and smiling, and at the end they were just happy. And I think that as long as we get away from that mentality that Ron Paul's unelectable, because really the only thing that's keeping him from being elected is that mentality. If people just embraced his ideas and thought, this is doable, I think that the trend's definitely going to continue in that direction.
And that is interesting to hear that they're showing up to these speeches. You certainly do start to hear a lot of his ideas that he's been talking about for years, whether about the gold standard or the Fed or, other ideologies. You do hear those start to come up more and more in some of the more establishment leader speeches. I do want to play something, because I think you raise a good point. A lot of people do have trouble sort of throwing all their weight behind him, even though a lot in the establishment are saying, all right, it's time, presumptive nominee. Let's hear from a couple of Mitt Romney's former competitors in terms of their desire to jump on the bandwagon.
Mitt Romney is going to be the nominee, and I'm going to support the nominee, whoever that nominee is, period.
Well, that's Mitt Romney.
Well, that's what it looks like, yeah.
But I hear you saying you're not yet ready to say, I'm endorsing Mitt Romney, but you will at some point.
Well, as the line says in The Wizard of Oz, all in good time, my pretty. It will happen.
All in good time, my pretty. So neither of them sort of really excited to, throw everything behind Mitt Romney. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, both of them have claimed to be the true conservative candidate, and I think that it's very difficult for them to support Mitt Romney after I guess, outspokenly speaking about how he's not a conservative and he does not represent true conservative values that the GOP claims to, I guess, champion. So I think that a lot of the pressure is down the line that they're going to eventually endorse him because they have the same mentality. He's going to be the candidate. He is the electable one versus Ron Paul, who's actually the true conservative. So I think that it's hard for them, but they feel like it's something that's they have to do it in order to beat Obama in November, which is one of the main goals for the GOP.
All right, last question, Isabel. I want to get your predictions right here, right now, for what we're going to see in the next couple months regarding Ron Paul.
My predictions? Okay. I really do think that he's going to take Texas. I believe he's going to take California, and if he doesn't win the straw polls, he'll definitely get a lot of the majority of the delegates. He has had very large crowds show up to go listen to him speak in both Texas and California, and I think that it's definitely going to be something pretty amazing this coming month. So I think those are definitely two big things that he's looking out for that I feel he's going to get. So.
All right, well, we will all be watching. Appreciate your take today. Isabel Gonzalez, president of Youth for Ron Paul at the University of Texas at El Paso.